Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. This is Joan Summers with the Girls and Gays Department of Mental, Spiritual, and Physical Health. I am sadly out of commission this week with some variation of the gay cold, the gay flu, the transsexual flu. We don't really know what it is, but I am sick and COVID negative. So it is just this new era that we live in where it is probably something, and I will sleep it off in 4 days. So without any new episode this week, we are going to be reissuing a very special episode that we love from our archives for old listeners to enjoy again and new listeners to maybe hear for the first time and see a little bit more about what we do here on the podcast. I also do want to tease that we had joked with some listeners who reached out to us and are in our Discord that we would not be discussing the Try Guys. But I think in light of recent events and YouTube videos, we have no choice. So when we come back next week, we will be getting into the Try Guys stuff, and we will be getting into it, if you follow my drift. So it is not going to want to be missed. It is not going to want to be missed. Do you see the NyQuil? It's fighting me right now. It's fighting my spirit. It's fighting my body. It's fighting my mind. So before it makes me fight all of you, I'm going to get out of here. But please enjoy this episode, and we are so excited to be back next week. Goodbye. The cost just to get hardwood in there, not to mention whatever exorcists Mormon use to exorcise all the pioneer children.
Mormons do exorcisms. Do you have to go through the Pope for an exorcism?
I don't
think the Pope recognizes
the Pope, honey.
You do.
The Mormon
Have
Pope?
You no, there's no Mormon Pope. That's what I'm saying. It can't be.
Girl,
they're Mormons. It can't be.
Charismatic, and we had exorcisms all
That's
the time.
what I'm saying, but that's because you're going through the Christian church.
I wasn't going through a Pope, though. That's Catholicism, honey.
Oh. Is it?
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes.
I don't think of her.
Bitch. Glass of red wine and a swisher. I think you get the picture. Bitch.
Here I go.
Read about that in the New York fucking Post.
Hi.
It feels like I was just here.
Let me say this. This living room is an omnipresent reminder of the familial bonds of the 1920s pre-war Victorian aesthetic. And you know what these walls could really use just to solidify the timeliness of this space, the effervescence of this space, the temporality of this space?
Mm-hmm.
Some shiplap on the walls.
Oh, Mama, you want some shiplap?
We got some shiplap for you guys.
Welcome
today.
to the stage.
Shiplap. No, wait, what would it be? I guess we'll work on that. We'll come back to that joke because this is Eating for Free, the podcast recording live from the absolute edge of the internet. And I am Joan Summers, local gossip.
And this is your local artisan, Matthew Lawson.
And we had to say that because currently there are attack drones circling my apartment.
I see them now. They're moving quite fast.
There's a few red lines on your forehead, and I'm just trying to keep calm because Chip and Joanna Gaines have officially issued a death threat.
Oh my God, there's the spotlight. It's on us now. They see us.
Open up. Chip Gaines on his nightly run. Too dark, too morbid. Someone did die, so I guess we can't
Running
laugh.
for hope for change for new beginnings.
Yeah, this is an episode about the Magnolia Network.
Oh, yeah. About the Magnolia Network and its acquisition of every single home renovation DIY piece of programming that has ever existed on any television or viewing medium.
So it is truly a undertaking that we have been on for all of you the last couple weeks. Behind the scenes, we have been teasing it a little bit, but we have been working on what we have dubbed Magnolia Month over on our website, our blog, eatingforfree.com. And throughout the month, we're going to be doing episodes like this, and we are going to be posting reviews on our blog and just doing a lot of things as it relates to basically every new piece of programming.
Yes.
On the Magnolia
yes,
Network.
the Magnolia Originals, if you will.
Yes. The Magnolia Originals.
The cinematic universe,
because
actually.
like Lawson has said to you now, the Magnolia Network has acquired the DIY network as of like a few years now.
And I think licenses a bunch of HGTV content.
Yes. And so we are diving deep on Discovery Plus, an app that is built by Martians and used exclusively by the people hovering the gas giant Jupiter.
They also have all of TLC, like 90 Day Fiancé, and like
it's becoming a problem just how much 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days I have watched since we started Magnolia.
There are like
here on
6
eatingforfree.com
or 7 spin-offs that they have on there, and honestly, having to go through Hulu to watch
90
is
Day
really
Fiancé,
difficult.
The Single Life, 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, 90 Day Fiancé after the 90 days, 90 Day Fiancé What's Next, 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After,
Pillow Talk.
90 Day Fiancé Pillow Talk, 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way.
Oh, that's the best one.
No, actually,
I need to catch up on.
I will say, Before the 90 Days is really excelling this year in keeping me up
From
at
what
night.
you showed me, I'm scared. Like, it's scary content. Like, the show is usually really scary. Like, it takes a lot of exertion to take all the information and sort it through my brain. But what you have shown me this season, what's the man that, well, there's a lot of men that are being scared.
There's a lot of men.
A lot of marks.
There's a lot of marks. Their names are marks. They are marks. But, we're here to talk about an even bigger scam than some of the ones being ran on 90 Day Fiancé right now, because the Magnolia Network is a TV show in and of itself, because logging onto that app through the Discovery Plus app is like being taken on the Lord of the Rings extended cut of loading sequences, menus, captions, settings, clicking in. Okay, now I'm in the home renovation section, but now I want the home renovation originals. And then I need to click into that to Magnolia originals. And then I need to click into that to full episodes.
And then the spin-offs, the BTS,
Yes.
the other extended versions of the season.
It's built like, and I'm just going to say this, another terrible app, HBO Max.
It's kind of a little bit better.
Because
functionally so
okay,
far.
as someone who's been watching a lot of In Just Like That, which is over now, and I have nothing to be angry
Thank
about.
God, the evil's defeated.
It does this thing where instead of taking you to the next episode after the episode, it's like, do you want to watch the episode bonus features? It's like, no, babe.
No.
No.
Next, keep it up.
Keep
going.
it going.
It's just like TV, like binge.
HBO, I know you've been out of the content game for a minute now, but like, we want it just drip fed into my eyeballs.
And that thing where like you exit the episode and then you're on the episode details page, and then to go back out
That's
is
what
to go
I'm
to the
saying.
seasons, but it goes back to season 1.
Magnolia
and then you have to
was
re-find exactly your
the
place.
most confusing.
And it doesn't sync your progress.
No.
Like, oh,
and then on Magnolia, I will also say, they do this thing where they'll say it's a Magnolia original, and then you look and it came out in like 2011. You're like, no, babe.
with like the HGTV logo still baked in the bottom right corner.
But
like,
if you told me that Joanna Gaines has access to time traveler technology, I would believe you. I would believe you. That woman is powerful beyond measure, and she is rich beyond belief.
oh, I really think about whenever I watch this, I'm like, you did build an empire. Like, this is a functional long-term empire.
Matt,
especially with Waco, as we talked about years
It's
ago,
a
being
company
transformed.
town. The
It is.
people,
That's exactly what it is.
the people in that town don't even make money anymore. They're making Waco bucks. Like, it's literally,
Vertical and horizontal
I
integration.
mean, we have a lot to talk about this episode. So for the first,
Can I quickly,
Go.
Ashlyn, thank you so much. Apparently the Magnolia season, literally botanically, is from mid-January to the end of March, which is when all the new shows have been premiering right now on the Magnolia Network. So again, vertical and horizontal and diagonal integration
here
achieved.
on Eating for Free. So we have a lot to talk about. This first episode is going to focus on some of the episodes that Matt and I tackled together, because how we're breaking this up, and you'll notice this on our blog too, I am taking a good chunk of them, Matt's taking a good chunk of them, Ashlyn is taking another good chunk of them, and then there are a few that we're going to start off with that we watched together, because there are, like, the stars of the network, so to speak.
Oh, definitely the flagships.
The flagships. And we were like, we should look at those together, right? We need to get more eyeballs.
We have to see the cinematic universe before we get into the spin-offs.
Yeah,
main
yeah.
canon central
It's
storyline.
like, these are like the Avengers movies, and then we have broken off to watch like Doctor Strange #9.
I don't know how that works.
I'm like,
but
babe,
yeah,
I'm not
sure.
gonna watch the Eternals. You need to go do that for me. Like, I ain't watching Loki. You gotta go do that for me. Either.
You can't watch The Courage to Run episode/series 2 without watching Van Gogh, and you can't watch In the Works spin-off without the original In the Works, like In the Works season 1, 2, and spin-off.
And none of it makes sense if you don't see Homework.
Yeah.
And by the way, that bitch thinks she's tricky. We're going to start with Homework because this Utah bitch, thinks she's being tricky with me, okay? The title of the franchise, Homework, right?
I know, it's so awful.
I'm like, they're doing like work on the home, right? And then
But their home is work.
No, bitch. I'm
they're
sitting
in the school.
here. I'm sitting here looking at you, and I realize they're renovating a schoolhouse.
Yes, it's their homework because it's for their home and it's their work, and they're working on the home.
Do you know? I am
through the home, under and
I
above
am
and
growing
around.
out my nails, and if I could just take a chunk of your flesh with them right now, I would. That's how aggravated Homework has me.
No, that's again horizontal vertical integration, like right there.
So Homework. This is a show that we talked a little bit about actually before we even decided we were going to do this.
It kind of spawned actually the idea of this
Yeah,
series.
it actually was because we talked about some topical news, which I'll briefly recap here, is basically the owners of this design company in Utah got a show through the Magnolia Network and have since been accused by people who appeared on the show for basically, I don't want to say scamming them out of money, but there were deals that were not honored. There was agreements that were made off camera that when the coronavirus pandemic struck, put people into like exorbitant amounts of debt. Some people have lost their homes since, but are still
there's
on
lots
the
of
line.
disagreements and like controversy between what the producer said, what the hosts of the show said, and then what the actual client said. And like no one, including the people in the network, even have a clear idea of what or how these problems should be handled.
And I know Matt has taken a novel's worth of notes about the 47-page Instagram that this person put out. It was like a saga. Every single day I would log on and you'd be like, they posted another Instagram, girl.
No, literally the people who posted this, we'll have a link in the description. We will not go through all of it in detail because it would take the entire hour. But literally the clients are posting their Instagram posts with like, so it's a carousel, right? Like they're doing a carousel of videos and screenshots and receipts and tea, but they always start the carousel on Instagram with like a 1 or a 2, like in big typographical font. So when you go on their page, you can follow the orderly instructions. It's very Pinterest friendly. Like we're going to talk about everyone involved in Magnolia.
Oh yeah.
All Pinterest friendly. And then same with the hosts, Candace Meredith and Andy Meredith, the couple family.
Yes.
Empire holding. They also have their like 1, 2, 3 on Instagram and their like carousels responding to all this. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on.
Okay, let's get into it because the basic gist of this show, Homework, is Candace and Andy are a couple with 7 children, and they live around Salt Lake City, but it is not in Salt Lake City.
They don't say it, but it is in Salt Lake City.
It
like,
is?
They service the Salt Lake
It's like
City
Park
area, but
City, right?
They do not say it on the show. You have to kind of look it up.
It's kind of like on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where they're like, we're in Park City, which is,
the wealthy enclave outside of Salt Lake City everyone lives in.
So they are these people who say they have owned an interior design company and recently have bought a schoolhouse, like an abandoned pioneer schoolhouse that they are going to renovate from the ground up to live in.
Literally 20,000 square feet.
20,000 square feet.
On like a much larger acre.
And the opening shots are like this like overhead drone footage of like rolling Utah
it's giving like
prairie
urban
pastures.
Yeah. It's giving like urban X Explorer kind of tea.
And Candace, with her chunky balayage as very helpfully.
You can say that, I will not.
So, with her chunky balayage, has said that she got into this because her grandfather built like, I can't remember what it was, but
he
she was
built like
like
a playhouse for her.
Yes.
Like that was her like first experience with
Yes.
like the DIY, you know, bootstrap kind of work.
She said she was inspired by him and got into this, and they've been running this business for 6 years. And there's this really interesting framing device that opens the show that I kind of want to start with on my end. She says quite upfront that, you know, and it's kind of meta too, because this entire network, right, is a heterosexual colonial American imperialist enterprise by Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yes, exactly.
And we'll get into that as we get through this series. But all of these shows, it's really important to understand the framing device of Fixer Upper. So if you don't know, Fixer Upper was basically the show that started this all. It was on HGTV. It starred Chip and Joanna Gaines. And their roles on the show was Joanna was like the slightly neurotic taskmaster wife who like raised the kids and ran the business, and Chip was her slightly aloof, irritating husband, but he was like, you know, lovable in like a dorky way, right? And he like got the construction done.
There when she needed him most.
Yeah, she's
That's
like
a common theme with the men and
she's
women in
like
the
talking
show.
down to him on camera because she's like, "Oh, Chip, you're being so messy and you're getting your Cheeto dust all over our
Literally
furniture." And then
always that
Yes.
dynamic. Like the guy just like fumbles a little too much or like gets
Yes.
too excited with the kids, but you know,
Yes.
she has to reel him in.
Yes. And so that framework that made Fixer Upper like a hit, right? Where it was
6-something
part reality
seasons.
show about the Gaineses, part home renovation show. And it wasn't the first to do that, but it really put HGTV back on the map in a big way and has since
And it's-
spawned a literal empire.
Yeah, it's the entire gateway that we discussed
Yeah.
obviously years ago in the episode about Waco, Texas, you know, because it really spawned book deals, lifestyle blogs, Pinterest boards, like then the town itself and the Magnolia, you know, like bakery and enterprise and
Absolutely.
the whole tourist the entire separate tourist enterprise they also set up in Waco, Texas, where they could tour the homes that are in the show. It's like a little Universal Studios, if you will.
So that format that made them so huge to begin with obviously has been exported to the original shows on the Magnolia Network. And there's this meta commentary that I want to focus on for a second. In the beginning, she says that, you know, we're not like other couples who do design businesses together where the husband works with his hands and the wife like handles the business side of things and the interior design.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, with us, it's like a little bit of both. We both do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, because she's actually supposedly the main designer and like architect in these spaces.
Yes.
He's not so much that.
And
He's
then
more
it
like handyman kind of thing.
Immediately it cuts to her doing interior design work. And I just wanted to point that out. And it's really funny.
Yeah, we don't
because
really see her like using power tools
No,
or like doing
and
kind of big stuff.
It kind of sets up this like girl bossery undertone.
Absolutely.
But also like trad wife evolution, where it's like, look at this woman who can do it all. She can drive her literal sprinter van full of Mormon children all around Utah.
7 children.
And she can run an interior design business, and she can redecorate an old pioneer colonial schoolhouse like a Victorian boudoir.
I mean, that's the thing that really is so upsetting about these shows a lot is they like very much kind of praise and respect and make it almost a goal to have like multiple jobs
Yes.
and multiple responsibilities and a full home and a full business life, which to be honest is something I can't stand. Like, no, pick and choose, like have a little bit of both, do whatever you want, but like do not go this hard.
Now listen, do I want children someday? Yes, why not? Do I like being around children? Sure, I would say that I can get along with children. Do I want to watch a show that mostly consists of this woman driving around her children without any shoes on, with their sticky hands, running around on an old schoolhouse lot? No, I don't.
Running on an open construction site. We're like halfway in the
shot
episode
of them like dancing around in the foyer together because she goes, you know, one of our favorite activities is to have like midday dance parties with the entire family, and they're all like boogieing, like they're like, "Hey, everyone, stop what you're doing. The cameras need to get in here. Okay, guys, let's just dance around a little bit. I know we can't have any music on because it's like licensed. We don't have the copyright."
Yeah, they keep having to like montages.
We don't
of,
have the
like,
copyright for Baby Shark.
free
Yeah.
music, like lo-fi beats almost over the children because they cannot afford whatever they're
Chill
playing.
beats, yeah. They're like, Baby Shark's too expensive. So
But they're like dancing in this like old school house. So they're like, we can't wait to call her home. They're not living in it, but they're,
No.
working in it with their children all the time. And just even halfway through the episode, this like unexpected rainstorm comes before they could install a proper roof and sealant. And it literally penetrates all 3 stories of the 20,000 square foot building and like floods the whole bottom floor.
So this is a really key thing that I think is really interesting about all of this is the show immediately thrusts us into this process of them decorating, renovating, fixing up the schoolhouse. And I actually had to stop at one point and was like, did I miss an episode? Like, did I start on episode 2 or 3?
It feels like you're in the middle of it.
Because I get into it. I don't see them acquire the schoolhouse. It feels like they've been, sitting on it, waiting for a TV show almost is the vibe that I got.
Honestly.
I don't want to accuse. They have other accusations outstanding against them, and I'm sure they have a lot on their plate. They don't need me to add to the pile. But another thing that's really interesting is it introduces us to kind of this like format of like, look at us, look at our life. And immediately the show asks that you care about these people, which again, I think is going to be something that we see a lot in these shows because the thing is, and I'm going to keep talking about Fixer Upper because I have seen a majority of Fixer Upper.
I mean, it's the blueprint.
Fixer Upper did not start about Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like, it was not in the beginning, if you go back.
It was more about the business, right?
Yeah, it was just about the format. And people's love of these two came out of the format.
And that's where it goes more fan service by the end of it.
Yes. Whereas in Homework, and I would say its other analog that's on HGTV right now called Hometown, which you've obviously also never seen, but it features, a chunky balayage and a bearded man fixing up old homes. It's
the only 2 genders at this point left in America.
It's like, here are these people that we have pre-selected because they are charming.
Market-tested
don't you
charming.
Care about them. And, I've actually done my research on these 2, and I went into the Salt Lake City Library and I looked at old newspaper clippings, and these 2 have been getting press for a really long time. Like, since I think 2015, they have been doing PR, doing marketing. And all the way back in 2017, this is kind of buried on the show, and they don't really advertise this, but they actually had an HGTV special back in the day.
Yes, I saw that as well.
So like back in 2017 even, it was like local Salt Lake City couple. And they've
been like selling the personalities for a while.
I'm going to just say that I found a lot of clippings from Mormon newspapers that were like, local Mormon couple, but
okay, well, they are openly Mormon.
Are they?
Yes, they say it in the episode.
Okay,
it's very quick though. No, it's very
had
quick.
To be like, I was looking, I was like, Mormon.
No, they're not. They're not hiding it, but they're not. It's not. The show is smart in that it doesn't make their religious affiliation a part of the storyline, which I'm happy about because we don't need that as well.
If she wasn't fighting a woman who has literally lost everything, I would also ask Candace what she thinks about gay people. But regardless.
Okay.
We're getting back to the show. So we're introduced to the children, we're introduced to them, and then we're introduced to my personal least favorite reality television show archetype, which is the elderly woman character who is inserted because I guess people just like to see old people on TV. Grandma Mary.
Oh God. Yeah.
She goes,
I know you mean.
We're here for our 7 children and Grandma Mary. And I'm like, and who is Grandma Mary? Why? I'm not watching a show about Grandma Mary. I don't want to know about Grandma Mary.
It's like the Meemaw, the like.
Yeah, it's like, I don't need to know. Okay? Everyone wants what the elderly women on The Real Housewives have, and they're not going to get it. Okay? You're not Mama Joyce. You're not Mama Elsa. Okay?
If it was Mama Joyce on this network.
You're barely brushing against Tinsley's wretched mother. Like... And Big Kathy, forget it. Okay, you're not that.
What about Deandra Simmons?
No offense to old people, but Grandma Mary, you're just not that girl. Like,
Deandra, she would have been great on this show because she'd be like no bullshit kind of thing while she's scheming on the side.
So these people immediately are like, okay, look at us, we're fixing up our giant house. And do you ever just think the whole time like, wow, this show is really pushing on us that these are like some rustic couple who just saved up all their pennies and pinched all their coins, rummaged around the couch cushions for a decade, hustled and broke their
Since
backs
they were
and
children.
sweat to buy a $20,000 house.
20,000 square foot.
20,000 square foot house. And I had to keep telling myself that schoolhouse is 20,000 square feet, which, by the way, according to official statistics, is 20 times the average dwelling size for families in the United States.
Yeah, when you have 7 children, I'm like, okay, maybe like 5,000 square feet, maybe 5 to 6. Like that's, I mean, 5
to 6.
No, listen.
Is absurd.
Listen, this is the Midwest, Western area. This is inland America suburbs. That's a bit more common. I've literally never lived in a space more than 1,100 square feet, and I think you are on the same page here. But for 7 children, I sure as fuck wouldn't want to be living in the same space I'm living now with them.
Okay.
Or 1 or 2 bedroom house.
I'm just gonna frame this
would die.
really quickly. The Versailles, the Florida Versailles, that's like so famous.
The Queen of Versailles documentary one, right? Like the one that they never sold.
Was, when it was getting built, 80,000 square feet. Okay. So 20,000 square feet, their house is a quarter of the size.
And that's like one of the largest houses in America, period.
Yes. Okay. So this apartment that we're in is 700 square feet, maybe. And so imagine literally 40 of my apartments. That's not.
They're
real
also
math.
on like an acre of land too, and they have like a rooftop that's probably not even included. It's 3 stories,
And so
I mean,
all
it is a fully it used to be a fully functioning.
All I
middle
could think
school
was they either
for
come from
hundreds of
money
students.
or people in Utah are dishing out for home reno, because like the cost just to get hardwood in there. Not to mention whatever exorcists Mormon use to exorcise all the pioneer children.
Mormons do exorcisms. Do you have to go through the Pope for an exorcism?
I
don't think the Pope recognizes
the Pope, honey.
You do.
The Mormon
Have
Pope?
you? No, there's no Mormon Pope. That's what I'm saying. It can't be. They're
Girl,
Mormons.
I
It
was
can't be.
charismatic, and we had exorcisms all
That's
the
what I'm
time.
saying, but that's because
But
you're
it's
going
not
through the Christian church.
I wasn't going through a Pope, though. That's Catholicism, honey.
Oh. Is it?
We get that you were
I've
raised
watched-
agnostic, but don't
Listen.
project your dogma on the rest of us.
No, dogma. I'm talking about going through the Pope. If anything, that's like the opposite. No, I'm talking about, okay, maybe it's because I watched too many, probably Discovery Channel Plus shows of ghost hunters where they have to do exorcisms and they have to like get approval from the Pope, as in like the Pope's probably like 14th in command. Don't you ever seen those? You don't watch horror stuff like that. You wouldn't know.
I don't, but
that is always a plot. They
I'm
have
just
to go to the
trying to say
Vatican.
that there is no way that ooky spooky schoolhouse is not full of dead children or dead children's ghosts. Okay? You're telling me some colonial pioneer bullshit is not haunted the house down. Get it? Haunted the house boots down, mama.
I'm literally disengaging. I'm disengaging.
Okay, so let's get back to the episode at
We
hand.
should talk about the clients. Their first clients
Why
of the
don't
episode.
you okay, also just really quickly before we get to clients, my favorite quote of the episode is, the school is really simple building. It just has 3 floors. Again, I fully thought like I was having a manic episode while I was watching this, because it was like drone shot, picture of a cow, drone shot. Our schoolhouse is just really simple. It just has 3 floors
And like 12 bedrooms.
and 47 children buried out back.
They find it's like an old nunnery. The demon, she's being exorcised. Okay,
I
so
didn't know you called the Pope.
girl, she's on speed dial.
Okay,
For free
so,
Enterprise has a direct connection to the
so
Vatican.
what happens with these
So
clients of ours?
yeah, so we have these clients. It's really basic. Like I would say this makes up like a quarter of the episode at most. Like what the clients, how much the time the clients take up of their the episode time. So basically, it's like a really super generic 1980s 90s suburban house. Like no flair, no style. Not even like a mid-century ranch inspo. Like this is purely like a box simple home.
What is that architect man that everyone based all the mid-century stuff on? Like he had the
Oh
Floyd.
God, you're gonna kill me.
Is it Floyd or something?
Oh,
Shit. You know what I'm talking about.
My boyfriend Lily's gonna kill me right now.
But you know what I'm talking about. The
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank
yes.
Lloyd.
Thank you, Ashlyn. I
Floyd
literally have
Lloyd.
been to a Frank Lloyd Wright house. I've like
Yes.
read on him. I literally
Yeah. No. So the
Could not
houses
remember.
in the Salt Lake City suburbs are like all those 80s and 70s suburban tract homes that they based on like janky No,
like
no.
17 versions removed, maybe.
No, but I'm saying that what they were reaching for was the like commercialized Frank Lloyd Wright home. I'm not saying that it is the Frank,
it's like
but I'm
very
saying
simple
that,
generic
like,
forms and
the
styles.
architectural tradition that Lloyd Wright was doing and working inside of was exported to the tract home industry.
Yes, that's true.
And then what I'm saying is that the houses that these couple live in are like the byproducts of that, like those old 70s, 80s, like suburban tract homes that everyone
Well, a lot
was
of
like
the suburban
at
tract
the
homes I
time.
think you're thinking of are more of like the California ranch style. Well, at least in the West, it's different on the East Coast. But I could not tell you who's the architect for those. But I do see what you mean, though, because Frank Lloyd Wright does have a huge influence in like most American
like the
homes at this
sunken living
point.
room and like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like not galley kitchen, but you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what's so
Our
annoying...
listeners are going to scream at me
I
for
know.
that last little bit, but I stand firm in my truth. I watched a YouTube video about it one time and now I'm an expert.
Absolutely. So the budget that this couple has to do just the bedroom and the bathroom, the ensuite bathroom to the bedroom.
Okay, this was nuts.
Is $30,000. I was like, okay, that's kind of a lot. Like 30,000. Like I know there are people who, how many homeowners listen to this? Like 7. That maybe will be like, that's not that crazy.
Do homeowners
That's what it
listen to
costs."
this podcast?
Look,
Don't you have a bill to pay? Don't you have to go water your lawn?
I won't say for privacy reasons, obviously, but there's someone in Discord who like actually was able to buy a home in the way that everyone, including themselves, made fun of them. Like because it's like the one person all of us maybe know that actually
We
is a
all,
homeowner,
like,
except for maybe our like grandparents if we're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, as you know about the gags, we love to self-cannibalize and we love to destroy our own.
And we love to shame.
So this is actually really interesting because the family says that they want this like kind of like rustic, like country farmhouse, like king's bedroom is like what they're going for, right?
Well, yeah.
The master's quarters in a plantation house is exactly the aesthetic that they basically say they want.
No, it's not.
Matt?
Yes. But what they're doing is they're doing the like contemporary spin, which is like the new world, old world aesthetic.
No,
whatever.
but that's what I'm saying is it's like
It's actually like going backwards in a sense, but yes, it uses like
I'm saying the tradition that it is coming out of, like what they are reaching at.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
the quote unquote master's quarters in like an old colonial home.
No, it's giving that. And you can
Yes.
tell it's giving that too because by
Don't
the
fight me. I'll fully take these nails and I'll put them through your throat.
art history, like 101 class we took 7 years ago is competing right now. I'm so impressed. So what is so upsetting about this in this design is that one of the things that the clients basically request is like one of those giant copper bathtubs, which I hate. I just don't know why I hate them so much. And then like a lion above it, like a stone lion fountain on like a Harlequin bath tile. And Harlequin
Yes.
bath tile is like basically a diagonal square, black and white, repeating like a queen's card kind of thing. And I was like, really? That's
Yeah.
really what we're going for. Like, that's like it's giving bed and breakfast like in LA, like nouveau, like kind of style, like
Yeah.
But in the middle of this like 1990s suburban home, like this is what's so upsetting is like the rest of the home is not being touched.
Yeah.
It's just the bedroom bathroom. It's getting this like full upgrade.
Yeah, it's very much like if a 70s film producer moved into like a plantation house kind of vibe, right? It's like we're like putting velvet over those Palisades and we're like
Yeah, they're doing lots of like greens and like woody
Purples,
colors and
yeah.
blacks and that kind of thing. So as the episode goes on, they do a lot of cutting back and forth between the middle school they're doing. And they're also doing the kitchen in the middle school in the old world
are we
aesthetic
also
as well.
skipping over the vintage store called Euro Treasures?
Oh, the one where she thrifts everything for like 100 something a piece. Like,
I mean, the budget on this was nuts. I'm like, where were they spending $30,000
No, I really have
in
so many
that
questions.
room? Where did the $30,000 go?
so like,
I could redo the entire house for $30K.
so let's just honestly skip because we still have 2 more shows to go over. But let's just skip to like, how the room turned out. Basically, they do this like ugly dark paint on all the walls to make it like private and like luxurious kind of look, which I feel like dark paint on walls, it doesn't bother me that much, but this room literally looks like some type of newly remodeled Airbnb like high rent place in like San Francisco, like in a Victorian. Like we're in the middle of the city. This is like in a dark, gloomy kind of like part of town, like northern-ish. Like it's giving that kind of vibe, but this is literally a suburb in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
In a fully regular 1990s suburban home.
And it kind of echoes what the Merediths do. And this is really my point about homework that I've been reaching at this entire little talk we've had about it, is that, you know, the Merediths do say pretty frequently that, like, for instance, they're talking about the kitchen that you mentioned that they were redoing as well. And she goes, you know, we're taking inspiration from this kitchen from old working kitchens. And they're always calling back to, again, Euro treasures or the old world.
It's very like disambiguated European.
Yes. And I thought it was really interesting that, you know, if you think about an old, like, pioneer schoolhouse, or even the kinds of buildings that would have existed in an old world kitchen, for instance, right?
Yes.
Who would have been in those kitchens? Either if it's out in the middle of nowhere and your poor family, probably the wife, although they would not be living in a house that size if you were poor.
No, it'd be likely staffed.
In a house that size.
In a kitchen of that size
on
at all.
the frontier, quote unquote, really the colonized land, or even back in Europe in a house of that size, especially in America, the people that be working in the kitchen were obviously either indentured servants or slaves.
Yes. No, that's exactly what's tying into.
That's what's really interesting. And I mean, not interesting, it's depressing as fuck. But that's really all I could think about while we were watching this particular episode, was like how much this sort of like white womanhood, trad wife living that I don't want to say obviously in any way spawned out of like Utah Mormon influencers, but can be seen so prevalently in Utah Mormon influencers.
Oh, yeah.
And across a lot of like white women influencers in the South.
I mean, I'll give her credit. She's not doing the like gold and white aesthetic that a lot of those Mormon influencers you're mentioning are pioneering now, like new farmhouse look. At least it's not that, but this is like a close
But it is
second.
this fetishization of like rural poverty and the working class, but also the kinds of things that were work done by slaves and people who were not being paid, indentured servants, or working class women. Like in a schoolhouse of that size, like if I just, all I can think about is like, especially knowing how the Mormons colonized Utah specifically, and like the actions that they took during that time. All I can think about is like how she's positioning herself as like the new modern evolved woman who can do it all, and she can be everything, and she can be the business
Set
owner,
example. I mean, that's really what the show is to give inspiration.
And then she's like, and the one thing I'm bringing back from the past is the old world kitchen, the working kitchen.
Yeah, they have all these like tools in the kitchen and all these like old fashioned antique items that you can't even use anymore, or you wouldn't want to because it's backbreaking labor to use to make food. And it's just like an aesthetic. And it's like,
those things have value because of the history that is associated with them. But I would not want that history in my home, because every time I looked at it, I would be like, I know exactly who used this before me, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like living in a fantasy. And what they really want is to basically live in like a Hollywood set kind of moment. Like they want to feel like they're kind of transported into that time, but without any of the history associated with it. So like, I mean, really, both the kitchen that they debut at the end of the episode, that's meant to serve their 7 children on a dining room table that is like just so severely large, it's mind-boggling. And then the kitchen and ensuite bathroom that they've also finished for the couple in that suburban home are both just like it's like, okay. I mean, what bothers me is the kitchen is probably a lot better done, their own kitchen, than the bathroom and ensuite they did for that couple. And I truly don't understand where the $30,000 went. I read about it more in the blog that we have on Eating for Free, which will be linked into this article where I do like an in-depth review of this. But there's so many shows I've seen literally on the DIY network as well. It's not a Magnolia original, but Restored is a really good like restoration, kind of like contemporary renovation show where they basically take homes that are like old homes over California, like Victorian craftsmen, Tudor revival, Dutch revival, whatever, and they basically try to restore it to the best way they can while also still giving contemporary finishes or contemporary appliances and like overall just really upgrading the house and doing a really good job at it. And they rarely go over budget, and they always stay in the style. The clients are very happy, and the budget they'll have average for an entire floor will be like 50 to 60,000, like living room, dining room, whole new kitchen, big kitchen, which kitchen's usually the most expensive part, bedroom, another bathroom for like 50 or 60,000. And in California is not cheap to work in at all for anything. And for them to spend $30,000 on a bedroom that they don't put a new carpet in, like they have the same decades old wall to wall shit carpet and that stupid Harlequin tile that doesn't even look well installed in the bathroom. Like, it's just upsetting. Like, the quality was upsetting. The quality is giving like half of what it should be. And for shows about DIY-ness, it's like kind of upsetting.
The only other thing that I have to say is that they're keto and she describes something as a Japanese semi-antique. And I'm like, explain that to me.
Oh, yeah, and also, I forgot. It's like, it's at the bottom of my notes here. The painting they put in the kitchen. Okay, so, like, I didn't even explain it. So they make this dining room table that is, like, 50 feet long. Okay, it's actually, like, maybe 16, 20 feet long. It's meant to serve their 7 children and extras. And they have this, like, 2-story tall... They have like what would be in basically a 2-story atrium in their kitchen, like a chandelier. It's like a larger than life size chandelier. It's meant to literally sit at the top of a 2-story atrium and be almost at the ceiling height below. And they put it into what is basically a very vaulted 1-story room. Yeah. So it's literally at like below eye level or like at your like shoulder level, standing up against at the bottom of the chandelier above this giant table. And then the painting behind them is like also 20 by 20 feet. And it's like a giant, like, colonial, like, oil painting.
I mean, that chandelier has definitely crushed a few of the children buried out back. Okay, let's take a quick break.
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes?
I don't think of her.
Hi. Hello. So that was part 1 of our full episode on the Magnolia Network. You can hear the rest of this episode currently on our Patreon. But if you are going through some financial stuff or you're just not really in a moment to subscribe to our Patreon, we will be releasing the second part of this episode next week. And then the rest of our Patreon will be dedicated to the Magnolia Network over the next couple weeks. So you will need to subscribe to get episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, or however many actually ends up happening out of this, because there is just so much content as you saw today. But to everyone who has subscribed to us on Patreon this year and last year and continually, just know that it really helps us create this show. It is a huge blessing to us, and it allows us to do things like this with our time and resources. We have a lot planned over the next couple months, not just this series, but we're looking to get some more special guests on. Now that we have the blog up and running, we'd love to commission guest essays and reviews, so keep a lookout for some open calls to pitch once we get some of that together and going. And really, that's all I have to say today. Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of this episode. You can hear the rest again, like I said, on Patreon. Matt, do you have anything you want to say?
Watch Restored with the host Brett Waterman on DIY Plus, because it's literally the only good show about interior design and architecture that doesn't make you want to rip your hair out or scream at the TV because the people have way too much money. It is like the perfect show because it just takes good old homes and restores them back to like being good and being wholesome and being for like regular people.
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes?
I don't think of her.
So this is the unaired section of our Magnolia premiere episode that we saved exclusively for Patreon, or if you're listening to it next week for the main feed. Hello, patrons and eventual listeners on the main feed. We are going to talk about some of the I guess I want to call them B-plot actors.
Yeah, like they're compositionally important for the greater Magnolia mosaic, if you will, but they're not like the main shows. They're like subset, like subgenre.
They are, like I said, the like Spider-Man 16 and Doctor Strange number 4 and Eternals 7 of the Magnolia
Is that
Network.
what it is?
I mean, like they're the spin-offs.
I
They're
thought
like,
Eternals was a big deal.
Was it?
I have no fucking idea. Is there 5 of them? Or there 6
Okay,
of them?
fine. This is like the 90 Day Fiancé.
The other way?
Happily Ever After.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like the Shaws of Sunset to the Beverly Hills.
Oh, but Shaw's of Sunset is so much better.
You're right. None
We
of
can't
actually
compare it to that.
You know what? We can't compare it to anything.
Is this like below deck sailing yacht? Maybe
Yeah.
like compared
Although
to the
we
main
do have some
deck?
below deck sailing yacht fans of the podcast.
I know. I actually really want to get into it. I need to catch
So
up.
the first one that we're gonna get into is I want to get through this one quickly because it's literally
Ain't much to report.
garbage. Van Gogh.
Yeah. I hate saying the name out loud or Googling it because it's like so stupid. Like you literally just get Van Gogh the artist. Like that's all you see.
So Van Gogh is
Van space go.
So Chewy is a man who
Wait, is his name actually Chewy?
no, we're calling him Chewy. So a man named Chewy
Of Chewy Incorporated.
who has a beard that is the equivalent to a chunky balayage, but for a face. It is the chunky balayage of the beard world. He renovates vans for people to live and work and, play
And
in.
that's literally it.
That's literally the entire show.
Literally the entire concept.
The entire concept of the show is rich people want to cosplay as poor, and poor people can't afford houses. And so everyone is living in their van, and nobody is addressing that people who are not white yuppies in Austin, Texas are killed and brutalized for living in their vans literally anywhere else in the country if you are not a participant on this show. Because people hate the homeless.
I was going to say, like, it's so different in, like, I don't want to say like coastal California, but like it is because that's where bajillion people live. But like it's so different in California compared to like most of the country where you can kind of park your van and bring them everywhere. Like people in San Francisco will like shoot you down if you park in front of their house more than 3 hours in a van. They're like, you're squatting homeless trash.
No,
like,
but that's
let me
what
pass
I'm
a law to
saying.
ban
That's
you
what
off
I'm
the
saying.
street.
This is like a show that only works in isolation to itself because there has been a lot of writing about this exact subject, right? The entire van life trend.
Oh, and then the TikTok pivot within it. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, listen, if you're going to live in your van, you're going to live in your van. But it cannot be ignored that for a significant chunk of the era of modern policing, people who lived in their cars and in their vans have been killed by the police, brutalized by not just the police, but the neighborhoods that they park in.
Getting evicted and towed and trashed for being
harassed,
in spaces, even if they're legally allowed to be there.
We have literally watched videos in LA and in New York and in San Francisco and other places of people having these vans and cars that they have to live out of for survival, trashed by the police and tires slashed, etc., right? Literally being surveilled 24/7 because this is a state of existence that the actual state has deemed illegal in every sense.
And it's
Again, if you're a tech developer from Austin, Texas, who just really thinks it'd be cute and quirky to have a van to go camping in every summer, that's also a food truck.
Yeah, it's cool when you bring it to like go surfing or like do a pop-up event or shop or like, you know, do a little tour.
You're a luxury purse designer.
When you're taking out your van to like go camping and like the reserves. But if you park that shit on a street in California or on any city street in the United States, like death immediately.
So, some initial thoughts I had about this episode is he goes, quote, "I'm not a craftsman, I'm an artist." He
I actually
also
missed that little gem.
he also introduces himself and his friends by having them all attend a backyard gathering where they played cornhole.
Oh yeah, that was.
And I was like,
wasn't that where he was like, the family's anywhere?
I was like,
I don't
what
live with a family.
kind of shit is this? Cornhole?
Very Austin, Texas tea.
Cornhole?
Very, very Texas. Yeah. Oh, it's big. Oh, it's big in Texas.
If I showed up to an event
and they were playing cornhole
and some chunky balayages and face beards pulled out a game of cornhole, honey, I'm death dropping out the door, honey. Honey, wig mama boots.
This is a very Charlie XCX Hunt Team House Boots Mama the House Down of you to be playing cornhole.
You'll never see me again. But no one's
Welcome to
gonna
the
cry
stage.
for you.
Cornhole. Okay, that sounds too real. That's actually legitimate.
R.I.P. cornbread. But I can't get into it.
Can't get into it.
Okay.
So also he starts like the whole premise he literally begins with like one of the opening lines is I hated paying rent. I wanted to travel.
Okay.
Sorry. Only because later, like, basically, you know, they talk about how, like, they do the thing with the cornhole or whatever and his friends, and they call him, like, the grill master. Like, that's what he's known for. Is, like, bringing the barbecue. And then, you know, the friends talk about how, you know, she's about that van life and how, you know, it's freedom. And it's not something basically to do for your whole life, but it's a really good way to, like, learn about yourself.
Yeah.
So, like, it's positing it as, like, a coming of age kind of like wanderlust kind of thing.
And again, that wanderlust aesthetic, like I am going to hammer this point home a lot in this particular section because it is truly the only thing that was on my brain for the first 2 episodes of the show. But the entire premise of wanderlust, right? Of like giving up your material possessions,
and like taking the
living
year off
the land is something that only works aspirationally in America for white people. Because again, other people are brutalized for that same exact kind of existence, right? Like,
yeah.
If you, again, it's like these people are not deviating from the norm in really any other way, except now they drive around a van that costs $100,000.
They almost always have remote jobs that pay them a good amount of money.
Yes.
And they don't have any commitments or family to take care of. So they're in very specific situations where they have the means and time to do something like
There are other people who are seen as deviants from the system and treated as like malignant, like cancers
like
in
parasites.
their communities for choosing this exact same style of life. And it is so just stark to me, again, in this particular moment when there are so many people who cannot afford housing, that this is kind of the show that network wants to, like the Magnolia Network wants to fixate on. And the worst part of it is they have the gall to show this man having to shower in someone else's home because his van doesn't have a shower. And I was like, so you're telling me your aspirational life
doesn't have a toilet, though.
Showing up to Brad's house every Wednesday to get a shower while his girlfriend sits on the couch and is like, okay, is your friend gone yet? Can't your friend get his own shower?
Could never be me. It literally could
He has a TV show on the Magnolia Network and a successful design company where he charges people $30,000 to renovate vans and he can't afford to shower.
Well, it's funny.
On his own dime.
It's always the really low end van. Like now they got like those really tall Mercedes vans, which are not cheap, and that's probably why this would not work with this show whatsoever. But they have vans, they're tall enough you can shower.
Rolling up to Van Gogh with your Mercedes Sprinter, like
those are like okay. I had to look into that once at a job I had because my boss at the time wanted to get something like that for commercial photography, and it made a lot more sense for their use. It's like full commercial use. Those things start base stripped with nothing at like $70,000-$80,000 and take like 6 months to arrive.
Oh, I'm sure
to get it with like the good tea, like the solar panels and like the shelving and like base setup, it's getting pushing like $150,000.
I mean, I'm sure that Mercedes is still in business only because the Real Housewives refuse to be transported in anything else other than a Sprinter. But
oh yeah, the 7th housewife on Salt Lake City, the Sprinter van.
yeah,
She's working harder than anybody else and costs nothing.
So There are some testimonials on this man's website. So again, I guess we should get into the first episode is about a guy who wants a food truck that he can work inside of.
It's like a vegan Mexican cuisine.
Yeah, he wants to work out of the van, live in the van, and I just want to say,
be able to take it around.
The smell of that van. So you're going to sleep in the place that you're frying food all day?
Well, listen, as we find out, he doesn't actually cook inside the van.
But you're going to keep the equipment in the van. So you're going to drive around with your greasy stove next to your bed.
Girl, this is the nomad lifestyle.
So
this is what they mean by living on the earth.
So like you point out in your review, you know, like the guy has his grill. He installs a salsa bar that like pops out on the side.
They literally do custom paint to have the word salsa on the side. I was like, no.
So some testimonials from the website I do want to read to you because of course I was like, Chewy Design Co. Let me look at the testimonies. These are what they advertise. Okay, quote. If you like working with people who can get business done, but can also kick back and have a great conversation over a couple of brewskis, you'll like Brett. Not many people have actual applied experience with van or car conversions.
This is what it feels like applying in the Bay Area for startups.
Multiple people, over ourselves included, build cozy, practical homes on wheels. We worked with him to create the design from scratch, and he helped us innovate throughout the process as we encountered unexpected challenges. The whole conversion process was fast, fun, and affordable, and extremely personalized. We are now on the road full time and couldn't have done it without Brett. We couldn't recommend Brett more highly if you are considering any kind of conversion. He's a great craftsman and a good all-around dude. Or another one. First off, I am so proud of my car now. I mean, I get to drive my actual bed around with me. Brett and Chewy Design Co. have had great suggestions and ideas for the layout and were willing to work around my vision for the car. I honestly can't wait for all the stupendous adventures I'll have because of this. And then his bio on the website is, quote, after throwing some cardboard and a sleeping bag into the back of my 4Runner for a camping trip to Colorado, I became intrigued with the idea of sleeping in my car. A few years later and thousands of dollars lost in rent for my place in Austin, I decided it was time to find a new template and be comfortable. After 3 years of traveling the country to build custom homes for adventure seekers and living in my mobile workshop on wheels, I have settled into a warehouse in Austin, Texas, because I got a TV show. That last part was just me ad-libbing the spirit of Chewy Design Co. You know, I channeled it through me.
Absolutely.
The ghost of the Sprinter van came and visited
it's the
me.
fumes from the van itself. What I really hate the most, honestly.
Couple of brewskis.
And what I'm not joking. Like, literally, when you read that, it looked like every other job I was applying for in 2020 after being, like, let go. I was like, oh, my God.
He's a chill guy and also a boss.
And that's how the montages are.
And has a brewski, but also he works hard.
I love when just like a startup, you know, it's bullshit because they show them, like, playing foosball and, like, drinking beers and, like, getting takeout, whatever, as they work on this van. Like, it's so cool. And his design friends, other bro dudes with beards are helping him. And then, of course... By I guess the third day of them working on this van for the client, it's due like the next day, like on day 4, and they're up till 2 a.m. working on it because they didn't get it done in time. And I'm like, see, it's always like that, right?
Crunch in my friendship, in my work friendship.
Like, get it together. And also, like, so the budget's $32,000. More than in Homeworks, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. And in 4 days, he gets his wish. They do the reveal. He brings out to this park that I was literally just at in Austin, Texas. It's across downtown, and shows him the setup, and he shows him how, you know, the inside has this, like, you know, I don't know, this cheap birch wood that they put in, and, you know, has cabinets, and it has ways to cook, and there's, like, I guess literally a blue jean fabric he uses for the cushions, which I was like, why would you want that, like, to sleep on that? But anyway, but what I don't understand, I want to get your opinion. I want to get your opinion on this. So, like, I get he doesn't want to cook in the van.
Microdermabrasion in your sleep. It's like an exfoliator every night.
Reminds me of this documentary I was watching about how sharks have like, its teeth instead of
Yes.
skin. Like it's like sleeping on one of those. Anyway, I want to ask your opinion on this. So like, obviously he doesn't want to cook in the van. That's the whole point.
No.
He wants people to cook outside the van and like set up shop outside. This man gives him a sink that can hold maybe a full gallon.
Maybe.
A frying grill that is the size of a large laptop. And like a few cabins of storage space under it.
Have you ever seen an actual
do
food
you-
truck before?
Yes. The frying, the shit's huge. Takes up the whole back of the van.
They're literally the size of UPS trucks.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They have like, I've literally been to a food truck where there's like,
at least it's the size of a USPS like mail delivery van. Like
Yes.
at least.
they're like, there's usually like 4 people almost
And
manning
you don't
a grill.
have a bed in there. A denim bed that's gonna soak up all that grease.
Shut up.
So you're getting moisturizer and microdermablation in your sleep. It's like an at-home dermatologist, but a pillow. No, also the thing is like, I just did a quick calculation because I'm messy. And with my rent here in this apartment, $32,000 would last me 20 months of rent, right? 20 months of rent,
Jesus Christ.
which is almost 2 years worth of rent.
That's actually insane.
And if you think about like a van that you're supposedly driving around constantly
Well, you allegedly be living in this for many, many years.
and
allegedly.
working out of,
Yes.
but I mean, it can't last like
The gas on that?
That-
Also.
also
Parking? You got to
this
pay
is-
to park
this
for
is
these
not
things.
everyone's apartment, but at least in my apartment, when my plumbing goes out, my landlord fixes it.
Yes.
And I don't pay
Yes.
because that's the law.
Yeah, because you rent.
Because I'm the renter
You also
in a
have
large apartment building.
700 to 800 square feet
Yeah,
of
but-
space to work with.
But, when your transmission blows, it's on you. And when you need new tires, it's on you. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess you're not going to be paying for like furniture and like gas and electricity. I mean, gas and electricity in a house, but like 20 months, almost 2 years worth of rent in a very expensive city like Oakland. Like, I would take that over spending 32 grand on a van that I have to now live out of, and I don't get TV, and I don't get PS5, and I don't get a bath.
I think you
whenever
can fit
I
a
want.
PS5 in there. I think there's a TV.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't get to take a shower.
But you can't make those TikToks where they go, look at my view, and it's them drinking coffee on a cliffside with a sunset.
That's true.
That's priceless. You
you
got to
don't get
factor
to go on
that
a
in.
TV show, I guess.
What also bothers me is they don't have one single shot of this man cooking or using the van for anything. They just show him going, wow, this is great. And then they like drone shot out. And it's like, done.
Yeah, also the one thing I did like about the show is it's like fully 26 minutes long. So
22.
22.
Take out the subs and the montages. It's like 10 minutes flat of content.
Even shorter than 30 Rock, girl. So that's Van Gogh. I guess we should then talk about In the Works.
In
the works. Get it? Everything's a pun. In the Works. Van Gogh. Homework. Work. A lot of work happening. So In the Works, in a gist, is what? I'm asking.
It's about a girl who gives up literally everything, savings, life, location, and enlists
All
her
that money Nike paid her.
and enlists her entire family, supposedly for free, to literally renovate from the ground up an entire lodge in Big Bear, California, that consists of 12 cabins, a pool, a lounge, and a check-in.
And none of it's done.
And it's still open while they're renovating the entire time.
It is the ugliest motel I've ever seen. It's disgusting. I feel personally victimized by its mere existence on my television. And I want to fight her to the death for making me witness a Reno show about the kind of place they make the Shaws of Sunset and the Vanderpump Rules cast Vacation. Okay? It's like, drum roll, please. We're going on a destination in Renovation show.
Yeah, it's
and
like
they
spin
slide
the
back the
wheel.
curtain. Big Bear. And you're like,
Big Bear, one wheel, another wheel, Lodge, another
that,
wheel,
like, sad
family.
trombone sound. Wah, wah. The trombone music that they put over the girls that get the chocolate candy bars on Drag Race. Wah, wah. Like, that was me. I was like, oh, she's renovating a motel. It's like, okay, this is the number one symptom that we can diagnose.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That is the direct cause and correlation to the popularity of Schitt's Creek among 30-year-olds in America.
All right. Banging this shit into my fucking laptop. The fucker.
This is...
The timelines of
I'm
this.
the doctor. Okay, wait. I'm Dr. Mario. Put on my stethoscope. Get my little pills. Boing, boing, boing. I'm stethoscoping my TV. This is all Schitt's Creek's fault.
I'm
me-
mad that I did not think of it sooner because you're so right.
Oh, you're telling me this woman and her quirky family are now having to live out of an inn in Big Bear, and they have wacky
And they lost their entire savings.
hijinks with the locals and lost their whole savings?
It feels like you plugged something in that electrocuted my entire body, and now the plug's not working anymore. And I'm broken.
I told you this is all Schitt's Creek's fault. And you didn't even watch that show. You're so lucky.
I watched Schitt's Creek. I thought you didn't watch it.
You were inoculated against
Did
the
we-
virus.
Did we both not admit that we both watched the show at the same time?
The real pandemic, Schitt's Creek.
I didn't finish the last season.
The real pandemic, Dan Levy's continued existence. So, in the works,
Sounds like you have a bone to pick.
let's talk about the star in the works before we get into the episode, because I have some thoughts about her.
I bet you do.
So, Lindsay Kurowski is the star, and she's the owner outside of the show. And she kind of talks about this in the main episode. She's like, I have my own design firm.
Yes.
And I've taken my people who work on my design firm, and we're pivoting to work on this inn that I bought in Big Bear.
Yes.
And it's kind of unclear when she bought the inn, for how much she paid for.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like 2018, 2019 at the latest.
And I also looked it up, and on the Zillow estimate was like $3 million.
Fuck.
Now?
Now. Okay.
Now.
That makes
so
a
it's
bit
probably
more sense.
less.
She probably bought it for $100 million.
So
Because in Big Bear is a pretty important area
Yeah, I
in California.
mean-
Like, it's a big destination for most of Southern California to go to.
So she's the owner of Naughty Pine Design Company, which is, quote, on its official website materials that I could find, an activation, design, and build studio.
I love her activation.
That proudly boasts on its website, quote, made in Los Angeles, which is like, a whole movement. We don't need to get into it here.
Rolling my eyes.
So its clients include, are you ready for this client list? Because you don't know any of this, right?
No, I did not look this up at all. You tell me.
So her clients include, from what I could find, Cliff Bar, Nike, Burton, Lululemon, Patagonia,
Okay.
Corksicle, Spotify, Live Nation, NBC Universal, Adidas, and United Airlines.
Oh, mama, that's like half the NASDAQ or something.
And then
right?
I went looking for some of their like marketing activations.
Yeah, like what was it?
Okay,
Like
so
what
for
did
those
she
of
do?
you-
Did she like create a font?
For those of you who like, I guess, have been blessed in your life to not know what a marketing activation is, it's like those pop-ups that you see where it's like the Lululemon lollipop factory at the Grove.
Yes.
Or like
really sponsored event,
Yeah,
sponsored
like-
content.
paint your own mugs with hashtag women strong / Adidas.
What was that like
sponsored by
Coachella thing
Kotex.
that was like body image with Jamila Jamil presented by
Yes.
American Express Advantage Rewards Plus Global, like that. It's giving
yeah,
that.
that's an activation, right? Where you're like, you're supposed to be activating
the
a new
brand.
market amongst people. Activate, you get it. So the activation for Adidas was a large sign and interactive experience at the Grove. And they also designed what looks like a
God, the Grove.
Lululemon jungle gym, a Nike basketball sculpture, and in-store displays for Patagonia, where it was like the clothes in like shadow boxes with like handwritten letters on the outside. It was very strange. They've also built, again, lots of pop-ups at the Grove. The Grove is a luxury shopping center that used to be frequented by like a lot of celebrities back in the day because it was like a paparazzi hotspot. Some Yelp reviews from the inn also have been shared with us, and I'd love for you to read those.
Yes,
now,
I have a folder
this
here.
This is all good expo before we actually get into what the show is.
Yeah, so we believe that she bought this in like 2018, maybe started working on it in 2019, and then by like 2020 is, I believe, when people started going to the renovated lodge. So I have a review here from February of last year. 1 star. This is from TripAdvisor. The title of the review is, "This was honestly the worst place we have ever stayed. I don't want to give this place a 1 star. I didn't even want to give this place a 1 star. It's so terrible. Completely false advertising. The bed is awful. Carpets are filthy. Amenities are outdated, and it's disgusting. Oh, and on top of it all, the owner sells parking to outside people during the day. So when you get back to the quote unquote lodge, there is nowhere for you to park. And those people who have used the parking lot all day leave their dirty trash strewn all over the lot and the cabins themselves. The lodge and its management do not care about their guests, their safety, or their belongings they have in the property. The place is horrendous, and I've never experiencing anything as awful. This place is worse than sleeping outside on the hard, cold ground. And if you have a dog with you, as we did, having all these people milling around the cabin will put them in a state of panic that the owners
sleeping
didn't
on
care
the cold,
about.
hard ground.
I didn't know who reviewed this place before, but it's a joke.
Thank you for finishing that with me.
Of course, I had to. The attached pictures are examples of people who are not staying at the location, packing up their cars and picnics after littering on the front of the property. Didn't give this place a second thought. Everything they claim to offer is false advertising. I have another review here from June of last year. False advertising, really bad place to stay. Nothing like in the pictures. We got there and there were no keys to be found. We wait. My husband and I are super chill, so we get the key after a while when we finally got into the place. First of all, smelly, not cleaned, hummed carpet, old, like really old. That's fine, but that's not what they are offering. Hot and humid, smelly with only 1 fan. Very, very loud old fan. I honestly take all of that, but then we went to bed. That was the last straw. The most uncomfortable bed. So much that after a few hours trying to sleep or get comfortable, we just could not. So it was midnight when we decided to drive back home. For us to risk that dangerous driving at night means the place is really bad. Of course, no apologies or money back. And then there's a few others here. People leave written paragraphs about this, so I'll start summarizing. But someone wrote this last year as well. Very disappointed. This used to be our favorite place in Big Bear. We've been coming here for years, but unfortunately, I don't think we'll come back again. The previous management/owner was so much better. We have just stayed there, and I must warn the other potential guests that, honestly, in comparison with 4 to 5 years ago, this place now feels abandoned and undertaken care of. Again, this is after the renovations. There's no property manager on the premises. I assume that's Lindsay in question. Like there always used to be. You keep on calling the numbers they left on the office door to get some assistance, but the office is always closed. If there was an emergency, you would just be by yourself. You will get an answer eventually, but the assistant would tell you that she's currently off the premises and would just take care of the issue later. Our favorite cabin, which we always stay in, this time wasn't really prepared for our stay. The indoor lights over the entrance door weren't working. The outdoor barbecue grill wasn't cleaned. There were no spoons in the kitchen. The kitchen itself appeared shabby without even the blinds on the windows. Many things in the cabin are now worn out and need fixing. We remember this place from years ago, and obviously it now desperately needs updating and upgrading. We thought that since Oak Knoll Lodge was recently on TV, it would be better looking, newer, cleaner, fresher. But no, unfortunately, the indoor heater was blasting heat when the outdoor temperature was over 85, and we were advertised to figure it out for ourselves to turn it off. Eventually, an assistant came out and helped with it and the indoor lights, but obviously the cabin wasn't properly inspected before our stay. We looked forward to seeing the renovations, which are so nicely advertised online as one of the best resorts in Big Bear, but we're very disappointed. Wow. There's literally countless other 1-star reviews here that I will not go over. Literally pretty much the same thing. Like there's literally someone here who wrote like a full essay basically that they just claim false advertising. Like basically it aesthetically looks great in the photos and in the show, but it doesn't actually translate. Like what people get is basically like total trash. I mean, not to go this place, Joan, but do you remember that Airbnb we stayed in for something we will not talk about in Los Angeles? And it looked great. Photos were good. Furniture was new. but it almost killed us.
It did almost kill me specifically. The start of my sobriety journey, our ill-fated trip to Los Angeles to do our Vanderpump Rules bar crawl.
This was years ago.
The kickstart to the journey to sobriety.
But no, like before
Go cheese balls, girl.
but like before even we like needed that place to function for us, literally sitting on the couch, it like fell in half. Like the furniture swayed, like things wouldn't
Everything
open or
still had the
close.
IKEA tags on it.
Yeah, like and nothing was broken in whatsoever, but everything was cheap as shit. Like I've been there. I know exactly what these people are saying. Like it looks great. A lot of people may not even notice it. Maybe you come on a good day and it's okay. But a lot of it just looks terrible. Like I don't know how they spent so much money and time on this, and it's just totally trash. And I read about this more in the review on For Free blog that I mentioned, but like the Magnolia Network isn't looking for professionals. They're not looking for experts. They're not looking for people who actually know what they're doing. They're looking for inspirational personality types that can fill your Pinterest board.
Look at me. I came and I had no idea what to do was doing. I had never ran an inn before. It's the last thing on my mind. I'm a marketer and I build sculptures for Nike. But, you know, I really just wanted to drop it all and work with my hands and open a cabin in Big Bear. And so here's me and my ragtag team of friends and family members I'm not paying. And we're going to do a new show for you, inspiring you to live your dreams is really the purpose.
Exactly, and only what it's about.
And so kind of getting into the show itself so we don't beat around the bush too much. The entire episode in the first premiere and then the second episode is structured around Lindsay showing off the property and introducing us to the cast of characters whose names I cannot be fucked to forget. Cannot be fucked to remember. Sorry, I've already forgot all of them. There's some brothers and little sisters. And there's some like darkness, I think, with the family or the parents because the way they all talk about the family is a little bit avoidant, but you know, some of her siblings are much younger than she is, and so she's kind of taken them under her wing, and they're all learning carpentry, and most of it in the first episode is like wacky misadventures, right? Like, oh, my brother's cutting in half logs and putting them on the wall, or oh, we need electricity, but I need to keep the cabin open because we need to pay the bills, and so I'm renting out the room we're doing construction in, and I gotta ask them if I can give them a discount on the room.
Oh, I'd be so pissed.
If I can run power tool cables out of their room all day.
See, this is the thing. Like, they're on camera too, so they can't really just go like, fuck you, this is ridiculous. Though it's probably happened.
If I showed up to my dream vacation and the guy was like, hey, so I'm running a power saw and like multiple drill cables
and we're
out
doing
of your room.
open construction next to the room itself.
Yeah, we're doing construction and we book the room anyways. Can we also please keep coming in and out of your room?
Like they knew. Like the appointments were set ahead of time. They didn't just show up going, oh, is there a room available? Like, and they gave them an option. No, like they came probably booked months in advance.
Again, she's never ran an inn before. She has no idea what the busy seasons are.
Yeah, that's the gag too. They don't have any experience in hospitality.
And
people
they're
get degrees in
renovating
hospitality
during the busy season. So it's like, hello. But yeah, so basically there's not really like much that goes on like to talk about. They like get a hydraulic wood cutter and it looks kind of mid-century inside, but nothing to write home about. And also no one's ever actually stepped foot in it anyways,
like, okay,
because it's closed ever since this show actually wrapped because it's been the coronavirus pandemic. And so they haven't actually had a working lobby since I guess forever. So it's like they spent all that time.
No, Mama, lobbies were open by
renovating.
last year as well. And it seems to be open now, but people are still having issues. But yeah, it's true. They did. I mean, to be fair.
Yeah.
Opening a hotel new and you're new to the business is already like, maybe like you shouldn't do that.
And then you have
but
to
like
do it
then
in a
COVID.
pandemic.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I can't imagine, but yeah. It's
And also,
sad.
I want to know what COVID looks like on the Magnolia Network because a lot of this was filmed pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Most of the things we watched.
It was.
Like this next show.
Girl. I feel like we might have a lot to say about this. We might need to save it for another episode.
No,
You think we should just do it?
we need to get through
just
it.
pull the trigger, Piglet.
So there's this show called, it's a special And we're going to be very brief, and I have a couple disclaimers.
Yeah, we should be brief, honestly.
It's called The Courage to Run, and basically the premise is okay, how do I say this? Because we need to be very careful about how we talk about this. A woman dies in this show from a terminal cancer diagnosis. And it is part documentary about her, part inspirational story about Chip Gaines learning how to deal with being famous and rich. And those two things happen at the same time. And so as a viewer, it can be hard, and it was extremely hard for me to balance sympathy and compassion for the extremely human story of surviving and then ultimately passing from 4 different cancer diagnoses and surgeries and all the things that go along with that, love and trying to figure out what you're going to do and how people are going to take care of themselves after you're gone, all that. And then you have Chip Gaines being like, I am miserable because I'm rich and I needed this cancer patient to teach me how to live again.
This is literally, I have it written down here. This is literally the first line that Chip says in the show. So like we start with like the drone shots of like ranches, twilight, like prairies as usual.
And so,
and Chip literally says, quote, "Fame is a really weird thing to get acclimated to. When you're a normal family in Waco, Texas, and somebody calls you up and says, 'Hey, I love what you and your wife do. Would you like to come onto a television show?' Nobody tells you the what ifs and the how comes."
And I want
have we said the name of this show, by the way?
It's called The Courage to Run.
The Courage to Run.
So we're going to be kind of careful in how we talk about this because, again, like...
Yeah, I wanted to be real snarky originally when we started watching this, but it didn't. It has a different turn.
In no way any disrespect to the very real person who has passed at the center of this, or her family, or anyone on her side of things that was involved with this spoiled baby of a man. Like, I really want to be clear about that. We are not trying to speak ill of the dead in any way, and I don't really have anything negative to say about that side of things. We're going to be focusing on Chip because that is what the show is about. It is not about the cancer patient at the center of it. It is about Chip ultimately. And so we're going to focus on Chip because, like Matt just said, Chip opens the episode, the special, it's a 2-part special, by talking about how, he was at the height of his fame and the height of his wealth when Fixer Upper ended, and he was lost because he had all this money and he had all these people who relied on him. And, he was just so famous. He couldn't go anywhere without people knowing who he was. And he had a really successful book deal. And, he was in New York promoting his book, and he was the most miserable he's ever been because he was at the most famous he had ever been in his life. And he was like, I'm just miserable. Being famous and rich makes me miserable. And so he's sitting in New York he's sitting in Central Park as the story goes.
Yeah, he just had done like a book PR spot on the Today Show or something.
Yes. And as the story goes, he sees a woman and her partner running by him in Central Park. And he essentially catcalls her and says, do you believe, or like, I bet or something, you could teach me how to run 5 miles.
He actually says here, I actually do have the quote. He says,
please.
How long can you get a fat guy like me to run a marathon? That's actually the direct quote.
She says 5 months or something?
She says 4 months.
4 months, yeah. And then you learn that this person, this runner that he has catcalled in the middle of the day, randomly, is actually kind of well known in the running world. And the story goes from there.
Yeah, you have the whole thing basically is that, he comes to her like having this moment where he's like, oh, I want to, change myself. I want to do something I've never done before. I want to challenge myself in this way, and seeing you do laps around Central Park with your partner is like really inspiring. So basically, how can you get someone like me who's not exercised, who has not done anything, to be able to do an actual like 5K traditional marathon? And we find out that the girl that he's talking to is actually like really big in the marathon space on ESPN.
Yes.
And Joanna does like a research and deep dive on her.
Gabe Grunwald was her name.
Yes.
Yes. And so Gabe was almost competed in the Olympics, as we learned from Gabe, who had recorded a lot of confessionals for this documentary, and had just missed out on qualifying for the Olympics and had been basically at the top of her game when she received a cancer diagnosis. And this cancer diagnosis basically snowballed into multiple repeated diagnoses. She would go through a treatment, she would go through radiation therapy, etc., and then she would go into recovery, and then immediately she would get a new diagnosis. And it went back to back. Basically 4 times this process happened.
Yep.
And so she met Chip kind of in the middle of all of this, at the height of all these diagnoses and medical things that she was going through. And
She's in her early 20s, by the way. I believe by age 22 specifically, she has her second cancer scare around the time that she meets Chip and Joanna.
And so the story that we are told is that it was just this chance meeting between Chip and Gabe. And I don't want to like read ill into this. I'm not trying to like spin a story, but her
and her partner claim to be running every single day in New York and where else they lived for like 10 years straight. So it's really not that shocking.
It's more that like what has happened because of this.
Yes.
And the manufactured elements of the documentary.
Absolutely.
Are the only reasons I kind of call into question the coincidental nature of this meeting.
It becomes all about synergy and about literally the vertical integration of this show producing this content.
And so, Chip starts training for a marathon in this documentary and says that, it was really hard, it was difficult, and, there's like cuts of Gabe and like what Gabe is going through and her life and why she likes to run and stuff from her partner. And it's this really like weird editing style where, it'll talk to this woman in these like faraway confessionals. She's like not framed at all like Chip or Joanna. And she's like talking as if she's kind of like very distant from all of this. You know what I mean? Like, because again, this is like a running documentary about Chip Gaines trying to get in shape for a marathon. And then there's this like other story about cancer that's happening. And the whole time, what I really want to say is that I felt like this should have just been about Gabe. Like the Chip of it all.
Yeah, the need to go back and forth was
a
bizarre.
Lot. And also really telling, I think, about Chip and Joanna Gaines, because again, it's like, what's most interesting is that in their confessionals, they always are filming together. Even when she's framed out, Chip and Joanna film all the confessionals for this together. And in all of them, they're doing their fixer-upper bit where he's like, I'm this old guy who's out of shape. And Joanna's like, you're not old, you're just out of shape. And you're lazy. And he's like, I'm lazy, I know. And then there's like shots of her.
Yeah, and she does the whole like rolling her eyes like, he's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, she's always like, but they're always together. And it's very interesting because I'm like, again, the need for these two to be so in control of this network and their lives, and they've given up Fixer Upper, right? As the story goes, they've like decided to let Fixer Upper go. Now they're starting their own network. They're passing off the reins, but here comes this like extremely out of left field running documentary starring Chip basically filming himself in a vanity project for a marathon that he stages in Waco, Texas. Yeah, because that's what we don't say yet.
Yeah.
The marathon that they're training for
that's what comes up as he's training.
A cancer benefit marathon in Waco called the Silo
So
Run.
basically, they start introducing basically Gabe's foundation, Brave Like Gabe, which she starts to specifically help fund cancer research, and marathons are the way that which they fundraise for the cancer research. Like, obviously, if you're a professional runner, that's something that is basically a easy thing to do kind of in your career, to make it a career, if anything, and start a nonprofit and be able to like use your hobby and to use your craft in that way for fundraising purposes and awareness. And so she makes a foundation, Brave Like Gabe, and of course Chip is like, wow, that is so interesting, and I'm trying to get to run a marathon. Like, what if we hosted a marathon that is like my first one that is for your foundation? It's like, again, the synergy of it all. Like, we can get both. Like, you can promote your nonprofit. We can help raise money for it, but it can also be on the show. I'm already filming this anyway.
And like we've talked about in our other episodes on the Gaineses, they film it very prominently in the Silo district, which is a district that the Gaineses have put together and built essentially from the ground up. That is basically a giant fixer-upper shopping center for the Magnolia brand. Because again, the Magnolia network is part of the Magnolia brand. This also includes home design, paint, a lot of other things too, books, etc., magazine, etc. And the Silo district is where you can go to get everything you need out of the Magnolia brand. And so in all these shots of them running for the marathon, running through Waco, running past the silos, you know, there's these big swooping shots of their store complex at the silos where the marathon's going to take place. And again, it's very hard to remove yourself from this like raw and gripping documentary about a cancer survivor, because it is so branded and commercialized and in your face that the entire purpose of this marathon is to bring tourists to Waco, Texas.
Because it becomes an annual event.
Yes.
And it becomes a thing that the foundation and Chip and Joanna Gaines can both benefit
an event
off of.
To bring people in to that specific district.
They literally start the marathon.
The Waco run. They didn't call it.
They literally start it at the silos.
Yeah,
yeah,
they didn't call it the Gabe
there.
Memorial Run. They call it the Silo Run. And I think that is really telling because, you know, we then start to see this like training process for Chip, which is essentially him like going out and running and being like, oh, it's too hard. I can't do it. I'm unprepared.
Yeah. And they do like the constant like arcs of like, it's too hard. Then I make a gain and then I hurt myself.
And the machinations are hard to ignore because we actually never see Gabe and Chip run together. That's not actually
she's training
him
remotely from New York.
Yes. And that's really the hard part for me to like kind of remove myself from this is I was like, why is this not just a documentary about Gabe? And it's not that Gabe was not interesting in her own right, but it could have just been like this. If you remove the Chip stuff from this, it is essentially a, you know, segment on Good Morning America worth of information about Gabe. But then there's this like filler.
But it started with Chip as the focus. It was about him learning how to run a marathon. So we can't lose that.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying is it's like
it's like they put
when you
themselves in this
remove the
bad
fluff
situation.
from this, there's essentially like 10 minutes worth of useful information
it's
in
true.
all of this.
Yeah, they put so many endless montages of Chip basically like saying how brave Gabe is and how much Gabe like inspires him and how like, you know, because of what she went through with the cancer, I definitely can make this marathon. Granted, we do not know. I mean, we kind of, I don't want to say spoiled it earlier, like you're going to watch this. But we did mention before that Gabe passes away by the end of the episode, or it's in the title sequence. It's at the sequence at the end where they mention that she passed away.
They don't lead with it though.
But they don't lead with it. We have no idea that's the case. Like no idea at all. It's truly shocking actually, because so much of the documentary focuses on her getting cancer so many times and beating it and it being so inspirational that she could and did. And it is.
And then in the last 5 minutes of the first episode.
It's like so unexpected and like, oh my God.
And I want to talk about now the marathon itself, which is, I guess, the fixation of this first episode.
It's the finale moment.
There's this really interesting moment where, so, you know, Gabe has obviously prepared for this marathon. She's a professional marathon runner and she's going into surgery and just recovered from surgery, but she's committed to running, right? She does show up. She runs the marathon. But Chip is extremely unprepared for the marathon by the time that it gets there. And so the basically entirety of the marathon, he says, I got about 2-3 miles and then he had to walk run the rest of the way. And there's this extremely harrowing series of events where Joanna is following behind him with a crowd of like 15 people around him.
With the pickle juice?
Okay, so let me set this up. So you can see him start to slow down. And the second he starts to slow down, like 15 assistants and producers swarm around him to kind of like
It really is like
cluster
multiple
him.
golf carts and vans. Like,
And then like 2 golf carts appear that are producers and also his assistants
and then his family.
His family. And they all start to follow at like 2 miles an hour behind him while all these assistants are like, Chip, do you need anything? Chip, do you need anything? And this is like starts to be this very interesting parallel between him and Gabe, where Gabe is like, look at me overcoming this obstacle, right? Like I have overcame cancer in this moment. I am running this marathon. And then here is this entitled, wealthy, famous white man who can't even do what he set out to do in the first place. And the second he stumbles, has about 100 people jump in to carry him.
I mean, he's the main
rest of the
character
marathon.
of this. Like the run is for the Brave Like Gabe Foundation, and you know she is obviously a center focus of this. But the entire premise and plot of the marathon is for Chip to prove if he can run a marathon or not.
And he can't. And that's what's so funny.
He really
is
can't.
the-
He barely makes
You
it.
can tell that him and Joanna went into this thinking that there would be a different outcome for Chip in this. And you can see them trying to scramble to like salvage the footage of the marathon, because the marathon itself takes place over like 5 to 8 minutes of footage. Like when it is,
it's like it's
the
very
entire
small at the
purpose
end.
for this
And
happening.
it's like an hour-long special, by the way.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it's really not much of the episode.
And
itself.
the monologue Matt mentioned about the pickle juice is Joanna being like, okay, so, you know, I knew he needed pickle juice. So I had this plan where we were going to take the golf cart back onto the highway and we were going to find a gas station.
I'm
and we
like,
were going to get pickle juice from the gas
okay.
station, dump the pickles out, and then drive him back, meet him with the pickle juice, drive up alongside him, give him the pickle
Oh, it
juice.
supposedly helps with the joint pain
And
or something.
amidst all of this, here comes Gabe running up past him being like, go, Chip.
Yeah, because Gabe finished the 5K first and got like the gold medal for it, and then has enough time to literally drive back halfway through
and
the
meet him
marathon
running.
and meet Gabe back to
And
help
it's-
him.
And it's hard to watch this extremely famous man give up on himself and basically have to be driven in a golf cart the rest of like the 10 miles of this marathon. Like, it's weird. It's a vanity project for Chip, and it is weird to watch.
And then they do this like really weird thing where he hasn't finished it yet. And I guess we're assuming he will. And then they cut to the future of Chip and Gabe sitting at some table talking about how they raised $250,000 for the marathon, like through the marathon for the
Yes.
foundation, which is impressive. And I'm happy they got that, to be honest. But they cut with that and then they go back and forth. And then Chip has his daughter subbing, and like his children keep switching out to like help him finish the marathon. And then, you know, they have this whole transcendental like moment with the voiceover and how like basically everything changed with this marathon. And he
Because
finishes it.
by
And
the next
then-
year, Gabe has died.
And then they literally cut to the text. Yeah. 1 year later, she passes away at 32.
And I will tell you, I was, by the
I was
way
so
that they
shook.
framed the entire documentary,
So shook.
by the way that they filmed it and the way that they staged it and the way they set it up, that truly, to me, felt not just exploitative on Gabe's end, but exploitative of the viewer's time and attention, right? Because
Yeah.
like it's kind of this thing where I was watching another documentary like this, right? Where it's not in any way content-wise related to The Courage to Run, but if anyone watched The Way Down,
Oh.
the way
Yes.
that it takes them 5 episodes or however long to say that she dies in the plane crash,
Yes.
that they keep
I think it's only
saying.
3 episodes, but they're like
Yes.
an hour long each.
But I mean, for anyone who wasn't like aware of
But it's
that
literally a plot
story,
twist moment,
Yes, setting up something that actually happened in real life and framing it like a plot twist in a narrative show is, to me, not only manipulative of the facts, it's just manipulative to viewers.
Yeah.
And it left a bad taste in my mouth, honestly.
Yeah, it really shook me up. Like, and then they basically mentioned that the marathons are still happening, and now they're basically going to be in her honor, and you're kind of just like, oh, like, okay,
Yeah, and
fuck, like,
it's just the whole thing is strange. I mean, this whole network is so committed to heteropatriarchal family structures, and when Chip and Joanna are talking about Gabe and her husband, Joanna's like, it's just so amazing to see this strong married couple with this deep connection. It's like, again, it's like, it is not about like Gabe as a human being. It's about Gabe as like a wife with a good husband and a good marriage.
Yeah, it's like about her function within the greater like family propaganda or like inspirational content factory.
I'm like, I did not think that they could fixer-upify a cancer documentary.
And then, no, listen. Now, we have to talk about the second part of this.
And we mean no
episode 2.
disrespect to anyone involved.
Now,
episode 2.
I'm going to be mean to some of the people involved in this.
No,
like,
don't be mean. Don't be mean. Don't be mean.
Okay. I'm just going to state facts and you can take with them what you will. Okay. It's quick because the first episode of the Kurtzströms, it's 48 or 50 minutes or something like that. It's full. Episode 2 is like 25 minutes. So it's about almost half the length, and it's completely different than episode 1. I mean, clearly after we know that Gabe has passed, things are going to be different, and the show cannot be the same. Obviously Chip has already ran the marathon, like that whole moment happened. So like, what the fuck is this about? So we start watching it, and they have the phrase, the graphic, running on hope. Running on hope is the slogan of the Brave Like Gabe Foundation. And it apparently covers basically, I think months, like 6 months after she passes away. It's like not really disclosed. It was really hard generally to get the timelines, only until I found the Instagram of Justin, who's the now like widowed husband of Gabe. I think we were able to find out it was like in 2019 that she passed away, or maybe 2018. So basically the show starts with him like going through like his apartment and like all the things around it, the decor, the furniture, all his memorabilia that's like still from Gabe, and is like all reminding him of her and the life they had together. And that's where he mentions they ran every single day nonstop for 10 years, albeit when she was literally in the hospital dealing with her cancer. And how, her death feels like he lost everything. His entire life was centered around her and the struggle for cancer. And he even says, quote, "The greatest gift she ever gave me was this foundation, Brave Like Gabe." So then it pivots to the second annual marathon of the Brave Like Gabe Foundation in Waco, Texas. And they basically do a whole recap of the last episode. And then it cuts to Justin, and now he has a big van for the foundation that he wants to remodel with Chip and Joe so he can, quote unquote, take running around the road. He then drives the van to Waco, Texas to meet with Chip and Joe and talks about what he plans to do with it. He mentions how he has a 8-hour-long 100K marathon that's coming up, some like 60 miles, and would like to take the van to the marathon event so he can represent the nonprofit. I swear to God, the rest of the episode and this moment, he does not describe whatsoever, and we do not see anything that shows what he does with the van. I literally do not understand the function of it. I just don't get it. They don't show it. They don't explain it.
But tell them who does the van for him.
So then he goes over the plan in the meeting space with Chip and Joe, and I'm kind of like, Chip and Joe doing vans? That doesn't really make much sense. Mm-hmm. So then they go, "Oh, we know exactly who can redo your van, Justin," and then literally cuts to Brett from Van Gogh, Chewy Incorporated, whatever, to remodel the van. And they literally bring it to the same place they filmed Van Gogh in, the same warehouse.
Have literally spun a documentary about cancer into a synergistic brand exercise for the Magnolia Network.
I was like, it was so shocking.
Disgusting to me personally.
So shocking. And they literally have this whole montage of Brett remodeling the van, and I don't even know what Chip and Joe or what their involvement is. There's like one scene where he FaceTimes them like, "Do you like this?" And they're like, "That looks great, Brett." And yeah, like it really, there's nothing really that they just do this basic standard remodel. They just turn the van to something you can basically live in. And they cut back to Justin. He's explaining how he wants to train with somebody for the 100K. And he basically talks about how without Gabe, he doesn't really have someone on his side that he can run with and train with. Now, this is where I don't want to I just don't know how to feel about this. I really don't. I don't want to cast judgment or shame on this, but it's just, so he brings on this woman called Amanda, who's in the running community. He talks about how Amanda is basically this, professional that has been in the running circles that he's been in for a long time, and he knew Gabe and knew everybody. And, she's talking about how great Justin is and how much grit he has and how, he's ready for the marathon, and they're just really great helping each other out. That's all they show. That's all they say. She's there at the marathon later. However,
a year and a half, 2 years later, they have 2 children.
Yes. So I found out later on the Instagram, but you were telling me before that within a year of Gabe's passing, he is
I don't want to
married
cast a timeline on
to
anything.
this woman.
Yes.
And then has
It was
one
really-
or multiple children with her later on.
I don't want to, again, this is just facts. This woman who gets introduced on this TV show.
They just don't say it on the show.
Yeah.
But if you
Eventually
go on their
becomes his
Instagram,
wife,
he
yes.
makes many posts about it. And
Yeah.
about Gabe as well in those same posts.
She eventually
about
becomes
Amanda.
his wife, and now they have 2 children, and we will leave it at that for everyone to feel and think and do whatever they want with. But it was really an experience, this 2-part special, for real.
Yeah, and there's really not much to say after that. I mean, he obviously runs the 100K, and he has the Brave Like Gabe logo on the side of the van. And first of all, actually, this is in my notes here. The van remodel that Brett gets is really nice. It's way higher end than the one they do in Van Gogh. I don't know. The foundation money's, doing what it needs to do. But yeah, so they do the 100K that takes 8 hours. It's painful to watch. He's twists his ankle in the middle of it, yet continues to somehow still run and do it. Talks about the therapeutic effects. There's this whole montage where he talks about how running helps him grieve, but also connect to Gabe. Again, I'm not casting judgment here because I literally cannot relate or understand that. I can barely run anyway. And yeah, I mean, basically it's just a full montage for the rest of the episode, and he literally finishes all 60 plus miles of that. And it really just finishes him with him crying and all his friends being there, and the episode just ends. It's so bizarre. It just as a functional part of the show, turning it from a 1 episode documentary, whatever, to then a second episode / spinoff / part 2 / extra content.
That's just more brand synergy between Van Gogh and the silos.
Yeah,
is
and then
dark, dude.
and then talking about Justin's life after her past, it's just a lot. The show and the producers have no way to handle what they're covering. That's what was so upsetting about it.
I'll end it here because I think that this is really what I'm kind of getting at in this first 2 episodes with the Magnolia Network is, there has been a lot said about Chip and Joanna Gaines. We have said a lot. The internet has said a lot. And the local news in Waco have said a lot about Chip and Joanna Gaines. How they operate, how they do business, the kinds of people they employ, the way that they acquire business and acquire land, all of it. But I genuinely think watching this, I think it was revealing in one area. And it is that I believe there are people like Chip and Joe who are not in their own minds manipulative or doing evil or spreading malcontent in the world. I genuinely believe these 2 think they are spreading peace, love, and positivity to the world. I really do. Watching this, I'm sure there is a business savvy there that has very much enriched them and the people in their life.
Yeah.
But I think that they do it because they actually believe
Absolutely
what they sell.
All of them do, and all of them did, especially Courage to Run.
I think that the biggest believers in the fixer-upper mythos are Chip and Joe. I think that out of anyone who encounters those 2 in their religion of shiplap, they are the most ardent believers in it. And it bleeds into every piece of programming that they've put together for this network.
I don't know what to say. It's crazy too, because the Courage to Run is such a pivot, and it's so wildly different than anything else, but it's exactly the same. It's still like you said, Chip and Joe believe this so much that it bleeds into everything they do. So then we get this extremely bizarre yet similarly produced, similarly handled storyline, but because the actual thing they're covering is so much crazier and deeper than the renos that they're usually doing, it just I don't know how to feel. Like it just really fucked us up.
It's hollow, like
I
the
literally remember
renovations they
texting you
do.
when I finished episode 1, and then we find out about Gabe's passing, and I was like, I feel like I just got shot. Like I just feel like
I
I
mean,
got
their
sideswiped.
entire remodel aesthetic is artifice, papering over imperfection with artifice. You can't
Yeah.
tear down your house, so put shiplap over it. Cover up all the ugliness with plasterboard and linoleum and hardwood. And I will say this.
And film it for TV.
And film it for TV. Wow. I will end the episode here, which is that if the world was the world of the leftovers,
Mama.
the Chip and Joe would run the cult in the first season. The people who the silent witnesses or whatever.
But the people who sorry, spoilers for the leftovers. Yeah, you should all watch it.
The
if you
people
haven't
who
already.
wait around.
Skip around this, but
Yeah.
the people who put the bodies in the end, all over the town.
Yeah. The one that Liv Tyler is in charge of.
Oh, it's so iconic.
Oh,
should we
good.
watch that
Yeah,
show?
no, but that's
Yeah, no,
Joanna
it's
Gaines
giving.
is Liv
It's
Tyler's
giving.
character in The Leftovers.
It's giving. Wow.
Wow.
I can't believe the fact that we have literally 17 more shows to watch is actually the most upsetting part of all of this.
I'm so excited to keep doing it. So all of you can go read slightly condensed, snarkier versions of what we just said on our blog. Expect more posts over the next couple weeks. I also have an essay coming out that I kind of want to tease here.
Ooh.
I've been watching a lot of a very specific 2000s show that I think really illuminates basically everything about the modern American existence.
Drop the name.
And the only hint I'm going to give about this essay and about what I'm working on is the title is called Gordon Ramsay Eats America's Heart Out.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's
Oh yeah, you'll have some. You were giving me some insightful commentary about what you were watching. I'm
very excited because I was
love
watching it and I was like, wow, this explains literally everything about the economy, about life, about capitalism, everything. So, thank you all for listening, patrons. We will see you next week with more. If you loved hearing about the Magnolia Network and you do not subscribe and you're hearing this a little bit later, feel free to subscribe to us on Patreon for more content like this. We have a lot more series, as we've been saying, coming like this, and your continued support allows us to fund the blog, fund our continued growing empire, the Eating for Free empire. You want to combat the forces of evil like the Magnolia Network in the world? Pay us on Patreon.
The
and
culture
we will
war
do it
starts
for
here,
you.
okay?
This is the birthplace of the culture war. Choose the right side. Thank you and good night. No, I'm joking. You can find us everywhere at eatingforfree.com.
Now, should we do our outro?
Yeah. You can find us everywhere on eatingforfree.com. I'm
They know where to go, girl. This is Patreon.
at Laura Croft Barbie.
Okay.
That's at _Matthew Lawson. I'm doing this for the next week. Remember? We're putting
True.
this on the main feed.
True.
We have to be
It's not just the Patreon
We
today.
have to be atemporal about this. Remember, this space that we're living in is a void space.
Yes,
A
fly.
liminal space, if you will.
That's the right word.
So, just like the Oak Knoll Lodge.
And just like that.
And just like that. Well, good night, goodbye, and hello. 3, 2, 1. Good. Wait.
It's
Right.
technically still Patreon. We're gonna
Technically
give
still Patreon. Okay, 3,
2, 1.
Hi, my name is BB Rexa, and I'm in the studio doing something I've never done before. Goodbye.
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes?
I don't think of her.
Glass of red wine and a swisher. I think you get the picture.
Here I go. Oh.